Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian. I'm the host of the Left of Greg show. You're going to be watching the video version of our audio podcast. Please, guys, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more content down there if you're already a subscriber, and a better way for us to get you guys some more stuff. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. Check out our links down below to get a hold of us and to actually find out more places where you can get more information about this. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at HBPRNA. Remember, all these cases that we discuss and all the discussions that we have are through the lenses of what we call human behavior, pattern recognition, and analysis. So please like it, share it, tell your friends about it, and we hope you enjoy the show. Getting set up here, Greg. Let me know when it says that it is going live. It should be going live right now. That means we are recording. So welcome, everyone. We are streaming live again to Facebook. So those just listening to the audio version, you'll find a link in the episode details. You can follow me on there, and it will pop up from time to time when we go live. So today's topic is we're going to be, calling it I Want to Believe You. And this comes from, shout out to Sean Clemens, advisory board member and consigliere to Greg.
Who Brian, I think we'll post Sean's address at the end of the episode so you guys can stop by and see him. I think, Brian, that he likes being referred to as Clem, which apparently is short for chlamydia, or I'm not sure.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But anyway,
that's your thanks for being a board member.
Today's topic is there's a story that actually just came out ended January here about a former TSA agent. Well, it occurred when he was a TSA agent. Basically, he entered I think a plea of no contest, but got charged of some felony counts and 60 days in jail, 52 classes, and a couple of years probation for what he did was he pulled a woman out of line, basically tricked her into showing him his breasts and basically almost close to sexual battery, I think, but that wasn't one of the charges. But what I'm saying is basically what happened is he pulled her out of line, said, hey, I need to do a secondary search. Hey, we can go somewhere private. Now, all of a sudden they're in an elevator going to this private screening room and say, hey, you know what, you can just show me in here. I had her show him her breasts, and also basically opened up her kind of pants, like around her waistline, to look down in there. And then he basically said, oh, okay, hey, you're free to go, send her on her way. Oh, by the way, you got a nice body, or you got a great, whatever he said. I didn't get the actual term, or I didn't find the actual quote of what it was, but, and then gave her some compliment and sent her on her way. So the idea is, okay, how the hell does this happen, right? How do I go from I'm standing in line, just like everyone has to do, going through security at an airport? It was at LAX, so it's a huge pain in the ass. It's a massive airport. It's super busy. How do I get pulled in? Because this person, it was an actual TSA agent. So how does it get to the point where I'm now showing, a female is showing this male TSA agent her breasts in an elevator in an airport? Like, so one, right off the bat, it sounds insane, right? You sent me the article and said, hey, this is what happened. I went, wait, what? Like, this happened at LAX? And then, how does it get to that point? So there's a lot we're going to get into and talk about, but those are the basic details of the case, because there's not even a whole lot. You sent me one article. I tried finding out, just doing normal digging on what else I could find out about the case. There wasn't a whole lot to actually come across.
If the folks at home want to know, really, Sean and I go back and forth, just berating each other over anything that has to do with the law, because we're both constitutional law experts and we love that. And then Brian and I, we share a bunch of content on human behavior. So there's probably an hour and a half of just exchanged feverish emails on hundreds of potential articles, because we want to talk about stuff that's of interest to our fan base. Japan, konnichiwa, ikaga desu ka? We know we love the Japanese. North Macedonia, sorry, I don't speak Greek yet, but I shall learn. But Brian, the first thing is, one, this is a great article because we don't need the whole thing to talk about how does this happen, and that's a great question. Second thing is, let's street it up for legal. One, if somebody touches another person and it's against their will, that is in fact an assault. It's an assault, and if there's some kind of other things that are required by the law, it's a battery. But this is indeed a sexual assault because the intent behind the person was sexual, demonstrated by, hey, I have to check your breast. Hey, I need to open your pants and make sure you're not concealing something down by your genitalia. The idea is that the intent demonstrated the crime. They may have plea bargained down to this, but the guy did
Right.
some time. But listen to me, you're never an active participant when you're being molested. And this was a case of molestation. He targeted somebody out of the line and brought him out. He was unscrupulous. He didn't choose just anyone. I would say, Brian, and I think you'd agree with me, that he specifically chose what we would call a soft target and then exploited his power, his
Okay.
uniform, his
So
position to get what he wanted.
so yeah, I would agree, and we'll get into how that came about here. But first, I kind of want to jump in and how that works with
Yeah.
from the female's perspective, from the victim's perspective of standing in line. Like, how does this, I mean, at what point does it take someone to realize, like, hey, this seems odd?
No, that's
There's
a
something, and I
great
want to start
question.
there because there's a lot too. Because you go, well, that would never happen to me, or I wouldn't let that someone do that, and you're going, well, look,
You're wrong.
this isn't just
You're
someone
absolutely wrong.
walks in and grabs you and says, "You're coming with me. Show me your breasts." Like, no, that this is incremental, right? So,
Yep.
kind of explain how that occurs. Meaning, I'm standing in line, and how do I get into that situation in the first place where I'm in that
So
elevator and this is happening?
so let's go back, and that's the perfect question, Brian. Let's go back to human hardwiring 101. You were put on this planet, and your drive is to thrive in a group, not to be a solo player. There is no lone wolf McQuade gene.
Yeah,
So then in that tribe, facial recognition is huge. Tribe size is very important because you can't sustain too small a tribe with breeding, inbreeding, hunting, fishing, gathering. Hey, you got to keep an eye on the cave while I'm out. And you can't sustain too big a tribe.
right.
Those
Because then
tribes
it's
have to have different tiers and
yeah,
architecture to grow and
it
assist
grows in
other
a way.
tribes.
Yeah,
And that turns into war and fights and all this other shit. But if you take a look at it, Brian, you want to believe. I need to want to believe you so we can cooperate and get the field stripped of corn and put it into the silage before winter shows up. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I think
So,
that was a famous FBI agent, Fox Mulder, who said that.
okay, there
People
you
want to
go. I want to
believe, right, on the
believe.
X Files, right?
He
People
must
want to
have
believe.
he must have tuned into your face man account. So the idea though, if you think about it, all of the things that we do, we want to cooperate. And if you're part of the tribe and we have the recognition signal, the eyebrow flash, the salute, that's where that turned into, hey, I'm not armed. Okay, everybody wants to work together to get something done. The opposite side of that same coin, Brian, is survival. Your survival instinct, the hair in the back of your head, the butterflies in your stomach, you're meeting a person, and why is he clandestine? Why is he standing off in the shadows? Okay, that triggered to make you sound the alarm and everybody run back to the cave. So, and I know I'm being Flintstonian in my demonstration, but the idea is she's in line. She needs to be somewhere. She's already under a significant amount of anxiety. All of a sudden, a person in a uniform, in a place where that uniform means something, comes up, and that person gives a fraudulent rap, but it's a rap
Yeah,
nonetheless.
it
And the
did.
rap is simple. It's not, you
Okay.
need to undress here.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
need to take
Yep.
photos of your breast,
So,
right?
but before you keep going on this, because
Yeah.
I like where this is going, is that at that point,
Yeah,
like
you
you just
do.
said, the story doesn't, the like you said, there, he had to come up with, hey, this is why I need to pull you out of line. But at
Yep.
that point, given the context of the situation that she's in, everything you just described, well, he doesn't need much, right?
Nope.
Right. He already has the authority to do that. It's his,
Plausibility.
like, well, that's what I'm saying, is that in her, like, it's not like this came out of the blue where she was walking out of the grocery store and
Yep.
it happened, right? Given the context of the situation, what he was saying made sense, and he had the authority to do so, and that's part of
Yep.
his job. So this wasn't something out of the ordinary. She was probably thinking, son of a, I got
No,
to get
no.
pulled out
And
for
what
extra
would
screening,
something
right?
out of the ordinary look like? So just to understand how baselines lead into anomalies, and then you have to decide. So if I come up and I slap her ass while she's in the middle of the line, or his, because
Right.
I can go either way, and I look and I go, damn, G, those are some tight jeans. That, first of all, that is
Yeah.
unwarranted. It's not nice to do, especially in that type of thing, and it's illegal for them to do that.
Right. But that
So
would be
this guy
so out of
didn't do that. Yeah,
context.
yeah,
That would be,
egregious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea, Brian, is that now she feels pressured. God, I don't want to miss that flight.
Yep.
I know I'm not carrying anything. I would speculate, and follow me on this one. I would speculate this ain't this guy's first rodeo. guy or girl pulling somebody out, that's a predator. And
Yeah.
that predator has done it a couple of times, and their coworkers goes, you know, here Nick goes again. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I think there was that kind of activity. So I would hope not. I would hope there's a larger investigation. But now I've got you off to the side. And Brian, I give you the choice. You still feel like you're choosing. I go, hey, I don't want to do this, but we got to go upstairs. There's a female that's going to search you. Hey, here's the elevator. Now we're on the elevator, and girl from Ipanema's playing in the background. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at my watch, and I go, you know, we could solve it right now. All I need to do is see that there's nothing under your bra and see that there's nothing in your pants. Go. And now the clock is ticking. Do you see what I'm saying? Even a sane, sober, rational human being would look at it and go, fuck, and then lift their shirt. So we're not faulting the victim here, and you should never victim blame. We are
No, no,
saying
no.
that this
That's what I'm
guy's
saying. We're
smarter
doing the
than the average
opposite,
bear.
actually.
Yes.
We're doing the
Yes.
opposite of showing how easy it is to fall into this stuff, especially given the context of what we're talking about. And like you said, so let's go right into there, because that was my first thought too. Was this ain't his first rodeo? I was like,
Yep.
you don't start with I'm going to pull someone on a line and go do this. It has to start somewhere else first. So maybe that was with a comment to a passenger or something, or hey, being able to pull someone on a line just because they wanted to get close to them, or like,
Yep.
oh damn, she's cute. Hey, come on over here, right? And then it continues to escalate. But it
Yep.
always starts somewhere, because he was a young guy too. I think it said he was only like in his early 20s or something like that.
Yep.
The perpetrator in this case. And so that was my initial read, was like, okay, well, you don't start there. So what does that start with, and how does that like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where does
Right.
it
And I
start?
think a
Because
better question, no, you're right on to something crucial here, Brian. I think a better question is, if you're at home listening to this, what a sad life you must have. But thank you,
well, not as
because we
sad as
do too.
ours.
But yeah,
So
not as sad as ours, because
so
we're
feel better
broadcasting.
about yourself.
But listen, that's why we're here. Right,
That's why
folks?
we're here.
Beat us up. We're like a pegboard. Stick something in us. But the idea is, when we're taking a look at this situation, I want you to imagine for a second that we create situations like this if we're HR, if we're a boss, if we're a supervisor, or we're administrator, and we don't jump on the little things. The thing you walk by, the situation you walk by, is the behavior and attitude that you accept. And that you can't do, Brian. So if you're there and you find out that somebody, male, female, transgender, does not matter in this context, it's the intent. Somebody goes, hey, you're looking good today, or have a safe flight. Hey, you're cute. Yeah, I am. Hey, you want to see more? Okay, that doesn't happen in the workplace. That can happen in a bar. Do you know what I'm saying? Under some rare occasions, that can happen at a funeral or in church, but that's not a workplace. That's all I met Shelley. But
Yeah.
the idea is, if you're going
His
about that
funeral
in a
was it? Never
workplace,
mind.
yeah, you might be a predator. And the idea is, if your intent is to do something with your position, that's illegal. Do you see what I'm
Right.
saying? If you're a teacher and you use that position to put a student in a situation where they think they have to say yes to something, and that perhaps will turn sexual, that's illegal. Even talking about it's illegal. You know what I'm saying? The preparation to commit a misdemeanor is a felony if you have the intent.
Yeah,
And
well,
it's wrong, folks.
right. And you always say, like you said, the little things, the things you walk past are the things you're willing to accept. But we all make, it's like we make those concessions sometimes in our interpersonal relationships, and how that works. Like, all right, like I don't want to go make, the little one clean up her room right now. It's fine.
Yep.
It's Saturday, whatever. But it's again, it's once you start that, now
You've
you
created
set
a standard.
I created a standard or a
A
precedent.
precedent. Yeah,
Yeah,
Brian.
and that's that's exactly, actually, Prev is following along, and he just commented too. He said it as we were talking about, once you accept behavior below the standard, you establish a new standard. Like, that's now the standard.
You did. You
And
gave away all of the things that are in print, all of those wonderful platitudes hanging on the wall.
yeah,
And you said, but in reality, this is how we roll.
But here's the thing. So what in these instances, because you're talking about one, this guy's in a position of authority, right? Which is why these things become so much more egregious. It's not some other passenger standing in line saying like,
Yes.
oh, you know what I mean? It's this is what their job is. So they're in a position of trust, in that situation in society, I should say, right? They have that position of trust. They've been put in place of this, in charge of this authority to do this. So now, what does that look like in terms of how does it start, right? Because this gets into a number of topics that people like to ask us questions about. Hey,
Yeah.
how do I know if my kid is going to commit suicide or shoot up the school?
Yep.
How do I know if
Prevent
my friend
indication,
is
yeah.
doing this? What's the difference between someone just saying something inappropriate and always saying something inappropriate, and that's inappropriate social claymore guy, compared to this guy? Because I would say it started just like you talked about with those comments of him interacting with passengers when he first started. Oh, and hey, now he's realizing, oh yeah, I do have this authority, and hey, come on over here, and people listen. Like, meaning at some point all those steps were taken to get him to
Yep.
a point where he has a woman in the elevator, right, making her take her clothes off. I mean, so
Can you imagine how scared she was? Brian, you know, my mom died recently. And the biggest thing that bothered me was I didn't want my mom to be afraid.
yeah,
Okay. Now here you've got a female that is on this elevator with just this guy, and he's playing it cool. He's Rico Suave. But when it comes right down to it, he's committing a sexual assault. He's a
yes,
predator. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And he's going to continue. Trust me. All the help
yes,
that they're going to give him, if they don't make sure that he understands completely that this behavior should never be accepted, I feel for the female because she had been predated and she'll never forget. No amount of court time, no amount of fines are going to cover up for what she did. And then somebody somewhere is going to say, how stupid do you got to be to do this? Well, let me show you how
yeah,
stupid you got to be to do something like this. You're a kid, and kids do kid things
yep.
because kids think with a kid's brain. And look at the Bible about being a kid and then growing up. And so I get one more kid in my car and I turn on the rock music. You've exponentially increased the likelihood of those kids getting into a wreck, doing something stupid, smoking a J, drinking, and going
Yeah.
out and screwing. And you're saying, no way, look it up. I don't say things that aren't scientific. Now, we're four kids in a car from the same school. And we're driving
Mm.
around, and somebody goes, you know, that's Tommy's house over there. We got the music jamming. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Hey, Tommy's got the best CD player. I don't even know if they make them anymore.
No,
And he
but
always leaves his cars unlocked, you know. So one of the kids gets out of the back and they're getting him, or to steal a street sign, or to grab something from the railroad crossing, you know, make it to your city. And they grab it and everybody's cheering them on and they're running and they get in the car.
mhm.
Okay. Young copper sees something. He don't know what he's seeing, but he sees a flurry of activity, kids in the car. He turns around, turns on the red and blues. Now you got them wigwags going. All of a sudden, electrochemical neurotransmitters are in that car. Go, go, go. We can't stop. The cop is looking, dispatch. I'm not sure what I got, but I got these kids fleeing from the thing. Woo, woo, woo. Adrenal cortex is pumping up right up front. Kids roll the car. All five of the kids die. Cop has to live with it. Society has to live with it. Parents are going, we want to sue. We want something back from it. That's what happened in that line at the TSA. It was a slow motion train wreck. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And other people in the line should have called out and said, wait a minute, right? Do you have the
Well,
right to resist a lawful arrest? You absolutely have the right.
well,
It's a constitutional right. It's called redress, but you can't do it in the moment. It's illegal to do it in a moment. You can't fight a cop. So what should you have done if you were in line? I would have said, hey, hold on a minute. This doesn't sound right. You get what I'm trying to say? The community should have come to her aid, Brian. I really feel that.
well, but yeah, but I don't think anyone in that line thought anything of it, and that's what I'm getting at. Is that, like, I mean,
Yes.
it's that's you keep spotting that in the moment. So what is it? Because you started to touch on it, and I
Yeah.
want you to go in that, like, about him being a predator. So
Yep.
let's take it from his perspective. How did he end up on this specific female? You
Okay.
get what I'm saying? Like, how
Poor
does
choice of
that
words,
work?
but I
No, you
totally.
get what I'm saying. Like,
So
how
how
did he
did he
pick?
zoom in on her?
Yeah, how
Okay.
did he
So
pick her out of that crowd?
okay, so first thing, bombastic people that are having fun with the people around them in line and are going to a destination like Cabo and woohoo, it's almost our honeymoon and that kind of. Listen, that right away says victim because I've got low SA. I'm not being protective of myself or my name or my bag. Somebody that's got their bag tag written in big bold letters and duct tape around their handle. They don't travel very often, Brian, and they're sitting there to themselves and they're reading while they're standing in line, just waiting for this to be over because they've got high anxiety. These are people that are screaming. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Hey, listen, I want to be victimized. I'm sitting there and I'm checking and I'm listening to every alert that's going on. You get what I'm saying? I keep checking and rechecking my tickets. I'm a little unsure, and you come over and you see that, and the first thing that you say is, "Hey, first time traveler." He probably said that to 60 people before the one victim goes, yeah, and
Yeah,
I got to tell you, it's bothering me. Boom, Brian, door opens, door number one. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Then
right.
I have to see how far I can push that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And it'll be simple things. It'll be like, hey, you're not carrying anything you don't have to. No, no, I would never do that. I'm not that. Well, you know, part of my job is I've got to check. Oh, I feared this. Well, listen, it's painless. It's only going to take a couple of minutes. So you've got to understand that the false empathy that goes
Yeah.
along with giving that person the feeling that I'm in your corner, I'm on your side. Listen, that's how the uncle molests the kid. Do you get
Well,
what I'm trying to
and
say?
right up front with what you were saying too, that goes into exactly kind of the kids example, but from the other side of the coin about boundaries, right? First I
yes,
learn my boundaries, then I test my boundaries, then I push my boundaries. So that's
yes,
what him first he had to learn his boundaries on what some people would respond or not, or how people would react to him asking questions. Then it started, okay, let's
yep,
start testing here. Then it goes to the next, like you said, all right, I got through that door. How many more doors can I get through? And
yep,
I think
yep.
that's those incremental those it happens incrementally like that. And if
So
you're
you
that
have
person,
to.
yeah,
You're so right, Brian. You have to be on the lookout for not the big elephant in the room, but for the small, subtle changes over time. So, for example, I say, "Oh, that's a black thing, eh?" And all of a sudden, there's nervous laughter, and everybody feels really bad. And then I go, "Oh no, no, I was kidding with the State of the Union right now and all the things." And then I pick somebody else. Okay, then I say something like, "Damn, that ass looks good in them jeans." And then all of a sudden, I see that it's completely uncomfortable, and I go, "I'm kidding. How many times have you probably heard that from some jerk coming in?" Do you see? I have to be the
yeah, yeah,
master manipulator of the environment because those are the rocks in the pond, Brian.
right.
I'm
They're throwing them
testing.
out there.
And guess what? If you have the resolve and you say, "Hey, warning number one, that type of talk has no place in the workplace," you'll shut them down and you'll identify them right away. If you don't, you risk losing the integrity of all of those great plans that you have in place to avoid violence or sexual encounters or here verbal assaults.
Yeah, and I want to kind of just explain it like you did from his perspective, from the perpetrator, the predator's perspective, because that's how simple it is for them to go through, right? And they have time, especially in this case.
Yes.
Like that's all this guy does. He sits there all day and deals with people and watches
Yep.
people in line. So he's naturally becoming good at reading that crowd for what he wants to find, for what he's looking for, right? Someone that will allow him access, even though he already he has more access than anyone else does, right? In those, then
He's
you
already
automatically
started
get
with
you
access.
well,
Yep.
yeah, he was already granted access with his position and his authority, and just what your public perception is. Okay, well, that's some law enforcement officer, I don't know, they're in charge here, I have to do what they tell me, right?
Yep.
So that's a good one. And you brought up something as something, as simple as like, you said, hey, someone should have said something, or people in line, but like, you just described like how many people actually even saw her getting pulled out of line, and then if so, would even have thought anything of it or even heard him, right? So the idea is, if in those situations, it is simple to like to kind of observe that, and in the context go, hey, what's really going on here? Because normally they don't take people out of line until they're all the way up over there, or because I've seen it before where people are getting pulled out of line, but those people were clear, they were that
You
was
were
a
going,
warrant
"Yay, thank
situation.
God."
That was a
Yeah,
warrant situation where
but
you had the
but
people
listen.
walk up, and I looked around and there was security everywhere, and I was like, oh, there's an operation going on right now, and they're
Yep.
pulling that guy out before he gets on an airplane. I see what's going on here.
You've
So
traveled with me enough that you know that if somebody's doing something wrong, I'm going to speak up. And I'll speak up to the point where we lose our place in line or our flight because I'm for everybody. And I know the Constitution, I know the rules, and I know the laws. So, what you're going to look for, Brian, too, is the narcissistic personality disorder. A person that has this, and apologize for the dry mouth here, the person has this feeling that their position, their stature, in certain times, like when you deal with cops, they call it being badge heavy. When you deal with certain people, there's power struggles that are going on. And then you got the gaslighter, and not the thing that you do in the quiet of your own room after a great Mexican dinner with a lighter, the gaslighter, not the blue flamer, where somebody says, "Hey, listen, I'm an expert in something," because like Brian, we're in line. TSA guy comes up and looks at you and goes, "Hey, do you know anything about Title 32, Section 47?" And you go, "No." Mayor and everybody would go on. And
yeah.
then right, and then the gaslighter is going to tell you, "Well, that says you got to take those things off when you talk to me." Okay, no, it doesn't. What it is
Yeah.
your ego is being challenged right now, and so you want to exert your narcissistic personality disorder by ordering me to take my thing off in front of this group because you feel good. Well, Brian, what happens when you do that? Right or wrong, legal or illegal? What happens when you do that? The electrochemical neurotransmitters in your brain do what? They go beep, 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 beep. Oh, I like that. I like that feeling. So the
Yeah.
next guy in line, big guy, "Hey, big man, need to take your hand out of your pocket." Do you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it grows. And I jumped like 3 evolutionary scales
Yes.
there, but do you get how that works?
No, it it is, and I mean you're getting into the whole narcissistic personality disorder. You can see that in a lot of places. That's
Yes.
you would yeah, those are the, I don't know. Well, it's either can be good thing or a bad thing. Meaning sometimes it's awful, sometimes it's easy to manipulate those people because you just make them think that everything is their idea and they're the greatest in the world.
Exactly.
But I
In
I
the
don't want to
workplace,
I
right?
don't
Right.
want to I don't want to get into that. So one of the things with this is in general, you know, like we when we discussed this, it was like you know you said clear way to explain it is this is, you know, fraud, right? And
Yes.
fraud can be incremental, right? No, not getting into the crime that he committed and how he's charged. I'm getting like this is a form of fraud and how that can be incremental over time and how we're less likely to notice that given this specific situation. And you even tied it back to survival and the tribal mentality, right?
Yes.
So and that's I think that's a great one for this one specifically, also because of the context of the situation of it being in an airport, right? So now we're out interacting with society, and there are certain rules and regulations that we must follow for security protocols that are in place for just protocols with checking into a flight and getting your bag checked. Like there's a lot of procedural things going on there, right? And so when we go through those procedural steps, given that tribal mentality, right? I want to be a good tribe member. I want to be there and do what I'm supposed to do. Are you good? Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So
some kind of background noise on my side. Sorry, folks.
so those things all kind of play into it. And you brought that up in terms of like, hey, when you get into those, you know, there's like some great books written around it. One is like the madness of crowds and how people
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
with crowd
Great.
behavior.
Great book.
But like when you get in there, oftentimes someone who normally in their own environment would be more than willing to say something or stand up or have an opinion or know or look out, like sometimes like when you get into that crowd, it's you're a lot less likely because what does everyone do in those dynamics? They start looking around. When one person starts running, what does everyone else start doing? They start running, right? But you look around and you feed off that environment so much. And since it is, like I said, such a controlled environment, and one side is sterile and one side is unsterile, and you have to go through that process, right?
I'm
It
sterile.
makes it even like it makes it, I'm saying it makes it even more difficult.
No,
Would
you're
you agree
exactly
with
right.
that?
So listen, when you understand fraud, especially humans trying to get over on another human being, they are masters of time manipulation. And I'll give you an example. The TSA agent knew that he had the luxury of saying, "Hey, listen, I don't want you to miss your flight." Oh my God, that's a veiled threat, Brian. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I mean, if I start there, so let's turn it. There's this scam that's going around where they call older people grandparents and they say, hey, listen, your grandson has been arrested and they don't want to tell their parents. So
Yeah.
the easy thing is, $150 bond. You can do it right now. Is there a Wells Fargo near you? Do you have a thing? Could you drive over there right now? Okay, now, do you have your grandson's full name? Yes, it's Tommy. Oh, shit. Here we go. Do you get what
Yep.
I'm saying? And you're going, okay, so what did they do? They preyed upon a person that's likely to believe it, that doesn't understand how all of this great stuff in social media works, like me. Then the other thing is, Brian, what did they institute? The gift of time and distance. They said the time is going click, 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 click. You get what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say? So now if I play that,
It's a
who
great
else does
sales
that?
tactic.
Yeah, who else does that? I come up and I go, hey, we only got 3 left. They're on the lot. You go,
Yep.
I fall for that all the time. When I
Yeah.
go on the flights and they go, there's only 2 tickets left at this price.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always
You're the
book
one
and I
like,
call it
Brian,
and
there's
go,
only
Brian,
two
you
tickets
booked the flight.
left. I'm like,
No, I'm the
shut up.
guy. Exactly. I get scammed all the time and I know about it. So if people just like you are really smart and they get scammed by it, can you imagine your grandma or your grandfather? And so remember, fraudulent people have no scruples, but they don't start horribly fraudulent. It starts with the simple thing at work, Brian. You're at work, you take a couple of items out, you got a highlighter and a couple of pens and a yellow pad. You get what I'm trying to say? Then all of a sudden they're in your car and they're on the way home. And you didn't think anything of it because you didn't intentionally do it. But then all of a sudden you see them laying there and they go, I bet they wouldn't miss that gosh damn stapler. Next thing you know, you got the free stapler. You know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden the work thing is like, hey, I give those assholes, 8 extra hours a week. No,
It's,
wait a minute. You
I'm
don't
gonna
have the right to
justify
negotiate that.
yeah, I'm gonna
That
justify my
moral
actions saying,
ambiguity.
yeah,
Do you see what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's how this happens. And when you see it, you have to call it out. For example, Brian, you know that there's people that get off on making traffic stops that aren't cops.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Or just
that
buying the
again gives
cars that are former police cruisers.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
listen,
Sorry.
a
Those
lot.
ones,
No,
those
no,
guys
that's a
piss
good
me
point.
off.
So go
So
on
go
with that.
ahead.
So a lot of those people buy former police cars,
Hmm.
but there's thousands of people, probably tens of thousands, that do that never illegally pull somebody over. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, just
They
because they
never
know, like,
go in.
hey, I can get this Crown Vic. It's got 150,000 miles
Yep,
on it, and it's beat to hell, but it was made to
it's
run
got the
forever,
440 pursuit.
and
You know.
I can use it, and I can get it for cheap, and this is what I need. Like, I that's understandable. There's plenty of people
Yep.
do that. Like, dude, this was the best thing I could afford. Got no
You
issue with
know a
that.
guy at
Yeah,
Benning that I did when we were going through that T3 that bought one of those cars, and he goes, I live a long way out of town, and
yeah.
I got to drive this thing, and he goes,
Yeah.
I've never been pulled over by a cop. Do you remember that one?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so for that second of urban masking
Yeah.
that you get, many times the people will just have a regular car, and many times it's their car registered in their own name, doesn't even look like a police car, and all they did is invest in the teardrop, Kojak, they used to call it, bubble. They pull you over and they come up and they go, hey, you know how fast you're going? Well, here's the thing. They want to exert that will. Again, it's a narcissistic personality disorder. They want to exert that will. Sometimes they'll just be in plain clothes. They'll flash a fake tin. Other times, Brian, they don't. Many, many times they walk up on the car, and guess what happens? And I send you those articles all the time. The
Yep.
guy in the car is a copper, and he goes,
Yes.
hey, yeah,
You got one of these?
exactly. Take a look real close at this. Yahtzee. But those people are failed to thrives. The chuds that have to get off on putting you in a position. TSA guy was one genetics place away from that fake traffic stop
Well,
chud.
yeah, I know
And
he
both are
was that
felons.
guy. I
Both are
mean,
felons. Yeah, it's
yeah,
that.
that,
It's
that
that guy, but it's a different frame, and it's a different companion universe of that guy.
yeah, that's yeah, the fake cop thing is the worst,
Yep.
or just the I'm gonna buy an old Crown Vic and keep the windows tinted and get the lights on the front like the police type lights and a push bar on there, and then I'm just gonna drive like an ass and everyone's gonna change the dynamic around me. Yeah, those are yeah, just because people are think I'm gonna try and pass myself off as something I'm not.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you see that stuff and that just annoys me. But this is kind of like you said, a form of that, or it's not unlike that. But you compared it to someone, taking some things from the office.
Okay.
So kind of elaborate on that a little bit, meaning this, like if we already talk about how just basic human development is, right? First, I learn my boundaries, test my boundaries, then I push my boundaries. Everyone you even brought up like different moral justification for their actions.
Yep.
Well, I work my ass off harder than everyone. I
Yep.
deserve this. And that goes into, no, man, here are the rules. You stepped outside of it. Now, TSA guy jumped way outside the box of the
Yeah,
rules,
but he
but
didn't
maybe
do it all on one. I
no,
agree with you.
but meaning
Right.
the pen guy just took a small step outside. Right
No, no,
now,
no. I disagree.
but you no, but go on, because that's what I want
Yeah,
to say is like some
so
people are willing to go, well, but it's just the pen. And maybe for that person it is just the pen. They're never going to take anything else after
yeah,
that.
yeah. So let's get this right out in the air right away. So years ago, working the road, there was this crew that was breaking into places that didn't have an alarm, kicking through the steel-studded walls until they got to the place that did have the alarm, because the alarm was for front door breakage and glass breakage, not for coming in through the side from the drywall. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So those guys were all experts in pulling floor safes. So they would go around to these fast food joints, pull the floor safe, and the petty cash that's there to open is always a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000, depending on the business.
I think they got
So
picked
these
up,
guys are
yeah.
really good at what they're doing. And I used to profile crews so I could get ahead of them and catch them in the act. So I'm on a caper that somebody goes, hey, might be interested. It looks like this caper. And it was at a very famous restaurant chain. And as I'm there, the uniform that called me is walking around with his partner, and he's got a handful of pepperoni and a handful of the mozzarella cheese to make a pizza, and he's eating it like a softball, right? As he's walking
Jesus.
around inside the place, and he's answering my questions. When did you get the call? Was there any cars in the lot? Did you see anybody leaving? Everything else. And I go, hey, where'd you get that? And he goes, right over there. And it was right behind the counter. You could see all the stuff that was set out for the prep,
Jesus.
had set it out for the next morning. And I go, okay, do you understand you're a felon right now? Do you understand you're shoplifting? You're eating this stuff. You don't have that right. Your access was here because this is a crime scene. Yeah, but I'm a cop. I apologize. I'm not going to be able to stop that. So bear with me, folks. It's live. And so what I told the guy is, you're just as bad as the criminal that broke into the place, and I got dressed down and talked to by my administration. How dare you do that? Brian, when you steal something from work that's not yours to steal, you're wrong. And just because it's a small item, okay, so I walk into a 7-Eleven and there's a pack of gum. How much is a pack of gum on a counter? It's under a
Yeah,
buck. I put it in my pocket and I walk out. Listen, I might as well take the whole store. Now, somebody's going to go, oh, it's not the same, and people don't look that. Listen, if you look the other way for that, you're going to start looking the other way for other things. When you start allowing this moral turpitude to erode, and here we're talking about something that's so egregious, Brian, a
yeah,
TSA person using their official authority to do something, and trust me, it happens all the time. And somebody's going to go, I told you, all those cops. First of all, TSA ain't cops. Neither is Homeland Security. Second of all, just because you're in a
let's not
secure
go. We are
position,
getting on a plane tomorrow, so let's
yeah,
not
yeah, I get it.
let's not go too far.
You're right. We're never coming home, folks. But the
That's a
idea is
long
the same
drive for
thing.
me. So
Don't be a shit ass, because we know that 7-Eleven clerks are bad people, and so are librarians, and so
yeah,
is the person at Jamba Juice. But it's one. It's 0.1% of the total people that work there. But you have to be suspicious. If I'll do that, if I'll fill my bag with, hey, it's trick or treat from work, then what else am I willing to do, Brian? And that's the very people that when I want to commit a fraud, big time insider threat,
right.
that's what I'm going to seek out, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you hold the door for me and don't check my ID the first day, and then you do it the second day, by the third day, I'm coming in with a body bomb. That's how
So
it works.
so that goes into it policing our own, right? Meaning
Yes.
each other, our friends, our family, our community members. I don't care what it is, your coworkers, right? So like all these examples, kind of most of them involve something around like an office, whether that's your office is working at the airport or office like your example. So
Sorry,
let's
TSA.
let's do that. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Dan.
That's
My
him.
buddy Dan following around looks like, hey, welcome to the no-fly list. He just said so. There we go. No, well, shit. Maybe I shouldn't go down this path I was about to. But
Yeah, no,
no,
go now. Hey,
But
in for a penny, in for a pound.
so, but speaking to his coworkers, and you just framed it, I think, well. It's not unlike I know my coworker takes a package of pens every Friday or whatever,
Yep.
or a printer cartridge or something, whatever it is. Like I know that they do. Like, how is that the same as those other agents who knew? Well, I've seen him do this, but I was just
It's the
assumed it was
culture
as
of that
well.
business, Brian. You're right.
I've seen,
Somebody should have done it.
but that's what I'm saying is that how does that happen? Because now some of those coworkers are probably going like, some are going, well, yeah, I guess I saw him do this. Some are going, damn, I missed everything. Some are probably going, what the hell just happened? How did I not see that? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the whole thing, is that some people won't be like, dude, I didn't think he would ever do something like that. Right. And how many times have you heard that? Or I never
You're right.
thought they would do this, or, well, no, I didn't think that it would ever go that far. And so what was that in there, and how do you identify that right there to know which is him just doing his job, which is him going too far, which is him, oh, this is definitely escalating, because that's in that gray area that people talk about, right? Because the same thing like the school
Don't say
shooters.
gray area, but I hear you.
It's where well, it's not a gray area, but it can be if I don't. I maybe I'm just second guessing myself, right? Maybe I'm questioning
If I
my
don't
own,
have
right?
clearly defined rules of right and wrong, if I wasn't brought up right at home, if I hung with the wrong crowd, Brian, I'm telling you right now that broken humans do these type of things. The
Yeah,
regular
yeah.
human might get in a trick bag once in a while, but you and I don't have gray area. You and I, the entire time I've known you, you've got the best moral integrity of anybody
Well,
that I've
yeah, I'm
ever
going to
dealt
do
with
something
here.
stupid, but I'm not going to do something, like immoral,
Yes.
legal, unethical.
So
Like,
so
what I mean?
there's your
That's
line.
different.
There's your line.
Yeah.
Was this a mistake, or did they have nefarious intent? And let me give you an explanation of that. Okay, I talked earlier about those kids that were thieving a couple of things out of a car just to be dicks, and they drove and the car rolled over and there was 5 dead.
Yeah.
Do your
Remember that
homework,
one?
everybody.
Yeah.
Listen to
Yeah. I
me right
remember.
now.
That
One
was
of those
last year,
happened
right?
in every 50 state last year,
Yeah.
with 4 or 5 kids in the car, and they're all
Uh-huh.
dead. And it'll happen again next year. Why?
Right.
Because that's how we're hardwired. And so that's where the human behavior pattern recognition comes in. Now let's do the analysis, Brian. Hazing. So I don't know how hazing started, but hazing started from the bravado from a bully. And then the group thought, hey, I've got to be a bully as a gating mechanism to get in the group. So all of a sudden, you and I stay and we say, okay, so Shelly's cousin is been studying, and he's a PhD, Brian, and he wants to get in our group on the board. Okay, so the very first thing we do for our board members is you got to submit this, you got to do that, you got to write that, you got to publish this, you got to, this dog and pony show plus, and I call it a dog and pony show because it is rigmarole, but it's to an end. You got to be a combat vet, you got to do this, and then Brian, now we have this group of 10 people that we choose from. Now let's change that just a little and say, when does the plunger in the ass come in? Well, it doesn't come in right up at the front.
That's a
What it does is
throwback.
the person that was the bully in the group goes, hey, you know what? It was tougher on me. I was a plank holder and I had it harder. So let's make
Yeah.
them shave their heads. And then the other guy goes, well, shaving their head's a good idea. Let's put, Ben Gay on their balls or,
Yeah.
in their underwear. And then it spins out of control. You know what that is, Brian? That's kids being broken children, even as they grow up, the immaturity,
Yes.
the EQ, right? But who is going to go in and stop and be the voice of reason? Now it's groupthink, Brian. Now you're afraid to say something because you're thinking, I don't want to be out of line, but Ben Gay sounds horrible. Brian, you got to say something. To be a human in that environment, okay, I want to fit in, but I also want to believe you. I want to believe that you're just like me, that you're a guy that's going to take care of me, or you're a female that's going to take care of me. And if we're in a society with no rules, if we don't follow the rules, there's no gray area. It's black and it's white. Are we doing the right thing or are we not? What's my intent? If my intent is to get ahead on your shoulders, on your back, then I'm a sociopath. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm a
Well,
psychopath
yes.
and I'm using you as a
You
vaulting mechanism. Come
Yeah,
on.
and you brought up the narcissistic personality disorder and all that. You see narcissism in people, and then sometimes it's psychopathy, or sometimes it's just a
Yes.
lack of empathy too. I mean, right? You might
Okay,
not
there's
have
a
those.
fine line. Yeah,
Yes,
right. So you
there
just
is.
described the situation because there's a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths that work in the business world every day that are
Yeah.
never a serial killer and never
No.
commit an assault.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
of course.
but their mens rea, what they're thinking, what they're planning, is always nefarious. Yeah, I don't care about Jim and his family. They can kiss my ass. I'm going to
Yeah.
move into that apartment. That's just as bad. But because we're America and we think that's good competition, do you get what I'm trying to say? We think, what was the 1980s Wall Street, the film, greed is good. Come on.
Right. Right. Well, I think well that's kind of changing now with a lot of
Oh
corporations.
yeah.
And like now that they have all that money, they went like, oh wait, what are we? What
Yep.
that is. But I get it because that these are all kind of versions of what we're talking about. Some more extreme than others, some at
Yes.
different levels than others, some at greater in terms of the type of crime. But it all falls in under the same umbrella or the same
Yes.
bucket, right? Of the same thing of like it's why you used the term at the beginning, and I thought it was perfect because you said fraud, and like, well, that's a good term because yeah, that could be a Ponzi scheme, billionaire bank fraud,
Yep.
or the TSA agent taking this woman on a line to to I forget all the charges they were, but what he did to her, same thing, was false imprisonment and making her take her clothes off in front of him. Like that's fraud. So they
It's
all
actually
fall into this.
kidnapping, taking a person
Yeah,
from one
it's
place to another.
right, right. I think that's why
Because
they.
just because she didn't know it, Brian, that doesn't mean it wasn't
Yes.
a felony, right?
Yeah, so that gets into so again it kind of goes back to the what I walk past is what I'm willing to
Yep.
accept, but then that's you see organizations with the quote on the wall and the values, ethics, the thing you got to sign, and some are better, some live by it for real actually, and some just it's just a quote on the wall. And
Yep.
I think that comes down to that's your personal that's your personal view on the world. That's like you said, you brought up how you were raised, how you grew up, but the idea is why you want to continue living that or holding people to standards is I'm never going to get rid of people that commit fraud or do these things, but I will stop them from doing it around me, right?
Yep.
Because you know it, and you've had experiences, I've had experiences where you said something in front of everyone, and you drew the line in the sand. Now, does that person change their behavior? Probably not, but they
Maybe
do
just in
around
front of
you,
me.
and they
Yeah.
do. But no, no,
Yeah.
no. But
Right.
that is that a small win? Yeah, it is, because then they
Right.
know, well, I can't get away with that here. Well, that's a perfect thing. That's why we always go back to, right? People teach you how they want to be treated. You teach other people how you want to be treated by the words you use, the clothing you wear, your actions, your statements, what you choose to say, what you choose not to say. All of those things play into that, and we read that. But this is a perfect example of like where, because I brought up the policing our own earlier, right? Whether that's personally ourselves, our family, our community, our friends, our coworkers, right? So at that point, like I have to be looking out at what is everyone else doing. And that was my thing, is like, if you police your own on these situations, you can reduce how often they happen, where they're that
Absolutely.
female in line. And again, I'm not victim blaming, right? But if she
No,
knows
no, no.
herself to
Brian,
go, hang on, look left,
yeah,
look right, what's going
yep,
on here, and
yep.
other people around her go, hey, this seems odd. The people that he worked with, right? It all plays into account. They're all contributing factors to that situation.
There's a good book out there. It's been around for a while, and a lot of people have read it. It's called the Bible, and there's a question in there: Am I my brother's keeper? And the resounding answer is yes, absolutely yes. And you know me, Brian. I also believe in the Hippocratic. Physician healed thyself. Shell and I still back in Detroit at the south east corner of 8 Mile and Van Dyke. There used to be one of the big like Home Depot type stores,
Yeah.
and right next to the old Bel Air Drive. And so we're doing a remodel on our house, trying to update a old 1930s small bungalow that we lived in. So we went over there, and I had all the measurements, and so I had to buy lineal pine for the crown moldings and for the floors and everything. And so we bought a damn truckload, and we're carrying it out and tying it on. And we're about halfway down 8 Mile, headed for East Detroit, when Shelly looks and she goes, "Hey, stop! We got to go back." And I'm going, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "They charged us for pine, and Brian, we bought oak."
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Now the difference was, to Home Depot, probably not very much,
Yeah, I don't
but the
think they would have.
difference to us was
I don't think they would
huge.
have picked up that on the balance sheet.
Yeah,
No.
somebody would have paid, right?
Yeah.
So we went
Yeah.
back, we traded it out, and we fixed it. Now somebody goes, "You're an asshole. You just got free wood." No, you didn't. What you did
Yeah.
is
You
it's a
got something that
mechanism.
isn't
It's a
yours.
test from the universe to see if good karma. Now you know Shelley
Well,
well
but
enough, our CEO. Wait a
yeah.
minute, one more.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
we're at Poway. You know where Poway is.
Yeah.
So Poway's got a casino, so we're ready to fly out the next day. I figure I'm going to go drop $100 on the slots and be a zillionaire. You know my
Of
shitty
course.
attitude, and I'm so stupid. And so we go in, and as we're walking in, you know how they got this door, the breezeway to keep the cooling and everything going. She looks down and she found a wedding ring, Brian, that we could have retired on.
Oh, I remember
I
the
mean,
story.
it
Yeah.
was
Go
a
ahead.
wedding.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I look at it and she goes, "Hey, look at this." And I go, "Holy cripes, that's a huge rock." She walked right over and gave it to
Yeah.
security and points to the security guy and tells her and walks off. Shelly never thinks of those things. So
Yeah.
there is no gray area in Shelly. I always think of them. So I'm always looking at the black and white and having to choose. Do I choose the Skittles box, or, do I choose
Yeah.
the bullets or the donuts, right? And then you're somewhere in between that. Listen, we all are, folks. We're all
Right.
damaged goods, right? But the idea is, what choice did you make?
Well,
After the
and
baseline, after the anomaly,
you're
what was your decision?
all right, so those are two great stories that also highlight how people look at these issues, right?
Yes?
So Shelley right away with the wedding ring is like one. You're gonna look at, like, some most people are gonna look at that and be like, a lot of people will go, well, hey, look, that's an emotional attachment someone has to that ring. That's a hugely significant in that person. Jesus, I wouldn't want to lose my wedding ring. Let me
Yes?
go turn that in, right? But now take that same excuse me, same example with the Home Depot. What is everyone going to do? Well,
Free wood.
if it was your neighbor's hardware shop that they owned and that was in their family for the last 30 years, and you've been shopping there since you were a kid, what would you do? You go back and be like, hey man, you guys gave me, you charged me this, but I actually got this higher quality wood, or I didn't pay for everything I have there. But what do then people do? Well, oh, it's Home Depot. Nah, what do they care? They're some big corporation. They're this, they're not going to motivate. Like, that's that justification that comes in
Yep.
there, that kind of moral justification, where when it's that big corporation or that big group or that big, well, what does it really matter? But if it's your neighbor that personally, you're gonna go, oh man, I don't want to do that to him or her. Okay,
Yep.
but it's the same situation. Like, you do
So read Jesse
change,
James, read the
cha-
James gang, read Jesse James, Cole Younger, Brian. How did they do it when they were robbing banks? They said, "Don't resist us,
yeah,
because
it's
we're
not
not taking your
your
money.
money.
This
Yeah.
money's insured. This is a bank." So what you're saying there, and that's again a fraud-based crime, because
Yeah,
you're
no, that's what
lying,
I'm saying. It's the same
criminal
thing.
misimpersonation. Do you
Yeah.
see what I'm trying to say? So, but Brian, I think that if we go back to the title, I want to believe you.
Yeah.
That makes me vulnerable. So
Yes.
if you prey upon my vulnerability, I think you're a criminal.
Well,
I
yeah,
think you're a bad human.
yeah, you're a bad human. Whether you've committed a crime yet or not depends on the context, right? Or what you're
You're
discussing.
well on your way. You're
But
right.
well,
You're
that's the
right.
thing, is that I want to believe you is an important thing to understand, because just like in the X Files, people want to believe, right? We want to believe. It's the same thing like with every conspiracy theory. I don't care what it is. Well, we want to believe that there is some powerful group of people and organizations spinning the
Yeah.
wheels and calling each other and having the cabal of secret meetings because we think that's how things work. It's like, well,
Because it's
no, it's
easier to
not.
understand things.
What
You know what I'm
is
saying? It really is, Brian,
it's
right?
easier to take that and then be like, we're just a giant ship floating in the sea. Like, and sometimes we're
Exactly.
going against the current, sometimes we're with the current, sometimes there's a, everyone takes turns steering. Like, it's not this a big, highly organized, sophisticated outfit. It's just people, and I think we forget that. And that's the same thing as, we justify it morally in a number of different ways based on the
Doesn't make it
context.
right.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, 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 but
you're right.
that's
And
what we
context
look
is
at it
such a
as.
huge lens, Brian. And
It
I,
is.
I, I do understand that, but I want to make sure that we redouble our efforts today to say, if there's a takeaway, if you don't deserve it, don't take it. If it's not given to you willingly,
But
don't take it.
that fits right
It's
into the
hard.
narcissistic personality disorder.
Yes.
Then, well, I deserve this. Like,
Yes.
so you get what I'm
But see
saying?
why I bring that up? Now,
Yeah,
listen, narcissistic personality disorder and psychopathy, many people have that.
yeah,
But then you get Isla Vista, you get what I'm trying to say, and you
uh,
get the one kid that
yeah.
feels that he was left out, and all of a sudden you got a homicide. So all I'm telling you is that if you don't nip it in the bud, using Barney Fife's famous line early, Brian, it's going to manifest. And if you teach your kids right, if you teach your family, your church group, your pod, your team correctly, you won't have to have these discussions often. But you will at the beginning. You'll have to do a couple of on-duty roll calls where you go timeout. It's not okay to accept a free meal. Timeout. It's not okay to take that handful of whatever from the break room, because frankly sometimes people just don't know. I don't think they're dyed-in-the-wool criminal, Brian. I think
No,
not like TSA guys. Sorry, we are
yeah,
flying, but
yeah, yeah.
but
Right.
remember what I said. There's ass bags in every job. There's
Yeah.
teachers that are ass bags, and there's doctors that are ass bags, and we know them. And what we're saying is, you'll be found out because
Well,
environmentally you'll stick up or fall below the baseline as an anomaly.
and like we said at the beginning, what you walk past is what you're willing to accept,
Amen.
and that sucks when you when you apply it to your life sometimes because you're going, damn
Yep.
it, I don't want to do that, but that is what I have to do. That's the right thing, right?
Yep.
So, and that is annoying sometimes, but you know what? I think it's a good way to go. But
I do too.
anything else to add here before
I
we
think I
wrap,
owe an
Greg?
apology to Sean. I think I owe an apology to TSA,
TSA, yeah.
all coppers. Who else, Brian? Oh, Homeland Defense. Just kidding.
Anyone? Hey,
Holy crap,
hey, yeah. We're gonna get the. I'm gonna hold off on releasing this
Well,
one until
but
we're back from
I
our
can
most
say
recent
I
trip.
can say why it is, Brian. I can say why I've got a little anxiety, because before I travel,
Holding up
I'm always
stool
worried.
softener.
And
That's
so
so gross. So gross.
my area below the tree line is always a little tenuous. Ever since the titanium, Brian.
On that note, I think it's a good place to wrap on. Don't forget, folks, there's plenty more. Follow us on social media. We do have a Patreon account that we're going to be adding to. We're going to do some fun stuff actually real soon here. Actually, when this is released, maybe it'll already be on there, but we've got some fun stuff we got planned. So you can check us out there. There's always more content and some more interaction that we can do for you guys on there. If you have any questions, always reach out leftofgreg@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share this with your friends if you enjoyed it. It helps us get the word out. And don't forget that training changes behavior.